a willingness to serve, right? So talk to me, why has the willingness to serve or that servant leadership model, what about that struck you, and how and why has it become the ethos of your business leadership mantra?
It wasn't so much about the soft side of things, or leading with anything only with empathy or whatever. But I truly believe that you can only lead a squad of people, if you will, an organization or whatever you want to call it, if you are intrinsically willing to serve your team. What we call within our leadership team, you've been part of it, is that we actually talk about your tour of duty. You cannot expect behavior, work, movement from people if you're not willing to do so yourself. And it's not so much about that the results count, but if you truly want to lead people, you need to be willing to be there in the trenches with them. It's good times, work hard, play hard. On the flip side of things, whilst doing the leadership and the servant leadership and the lead by example, we still expect that the entire team is working on the job until the job is done. So you actually lead with the empathy part or help people out, but you also expect them to deliver, whatever it takes.
I think it's really important. It's really easy for you to want to be in leadership, for you to grow into leadership, for you to become a leader. But I think one of the things you notice as leaders, what tends to happen, the farther away that you come from the front lines and the farther you are in that leadership path, you sometimes forget that connection to the tour of duty, the connection to what is it that your teams in place are set up to do, right? From frontline to operations to back of house or back office to anything in between. Every employee at the organization, at any organization, is looking to make an impact, right? They want to do their job. They want to do it well. Some of people, yeah, and some people do it for, they do it to grow. They take a job with the opportunity that they are going to use that experience to the next thing and next thing. Some people find, their zone of genius and their passion, and they stay in that role. Some people are still figuring it out. And then there's also people that take jobs that they know they can do well, and they do that because they can clock in, clock out, and then have their life outside. And you need all those types of people in an organization. And I think it's really easy for leaders to forget that not everyone's like them.
So that's a mistake that I still frequently make. And luckily, I've got a team surrounding me who's making me quite well aware that not everybody shares the same values and whatever, so and whatnot. So what you were talking about or referencing is you need to take into consideration that there are different traits of people within your organization. I'm also not necessarily stating that the servant leadership model is the model. I truly believe that all kinds of models will work. But right now, we're having the discussion or the conversation about Omniboost. And with regards to Omniboost, our DNA, I'm a firm believer in leadership as a servant leadership, doing the tour of duties. Be aware that you've got different people. So what I needed to learn as a founder, and you know me, I'm all over the freaking place. So at some point, I need to respect reporting lines. For me, difficult work. Titles, not a conversation that I really want to be in. But I do need to understand that that's part of running a business. Simultaneously, Omniboost is Omniboost. And that's what I expect from my leaders, my leadership team, to convey and show to the entire team.
There's different ways to lead, and there's millions of manuals out there, and what works for one company might not work for another. And everyone tries to stand on a hill and my way is the way. But I think when you think about servant leadership when done right, the idea behind it is, as a leader, while you are involved in making really tough decisions and you're looking at the wider picture, and sometimes you're looking not just what's happening today, but what's happening tomorrow, what's happening 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, it can be hard to remember what it's like to do the day-to-day and what it is. And so to me, servant leadership really comes down to, we need to be thinking as leaders 3, 6, 9, 12 years. 12 months down the road, like, we're in the process of looking at how do we get through Q3 into Q4, Q4 into Q1, so on and so forth. But we can't forget, what do we do day to day that makes us unique? We talk about the Omniboost DNA. What do we do day in and day out that makes Omniboost who it is? And one of those things is, and we talk about our mission, is to give creativity back to humans. And it's the time to be creative, right? And I think that's a really impactful thing when we talk about this podcast. The idea behind it is, how do we make the hospitality experience more human through technology? And for us, from an Omniboost perspective, it firmly is, we want to make humans more, give them time back, lessening things that we can control, like financial reporting and reconciliation, those things that we do with our integrations, all those things, so that they can be more creative on how do we make the customers delighted? How does this help when the customer checks in and checks out?
A funny thing is that at some point you run the risk of forgetting to instill that feeling or keep that feeling within your own company. So you're totally focused on the customer side of things, and at some point you run the risk of forgetting your core strength of your company. That's your people. And I want to reflect back on what you said. Whilst doing or taking the approach of a servant leadership, it doesn't state that at some point you can't make a tough decision. If need be, I'll make the tough decision. And at that point, it won't be a democracy, because a decision needs to be made. Excuse my French. If I fuck up, I'll be there in the trenches and taking care of the shit that I created, whilst we're expecting my team to be part of that.
The idea of accountability and extreme ownership is that sometimes it's really easy, especially the bigger companies. There's the adage that shit rolls downhill, right? And you can always pass the buck. And I think servant leadership is really about whatever decisions that we make as a leadership team, if they don't get executed or they're the wrong decision, that we own up to that and that we get in the trenches to help fix it. Because we can't expect people, our team, our employees, our lifeblood, who are not involved in those decisions, to always fix it. Because sometimes they aren't the ones to fix it.
Correct. And what we heard about coming from our own team, that they were basically second guessing why we made a couple of decisions. I think they're allowed to. We, as a leadership team, more specifically, I need to learn to explain the why as why we're doing things. Unfortunately, I'm not clairvoyant, so not every decision that I make is by definition the right one. And I think I fuck up on more times than I would like to account for. But then still, that's the truth. That's being an entrepreneur or being in business or leading a company.